This is Lee with Crashtesthobby. Some flyers' planes always seem to fly better. I'm going to tell you why. It's because of their attention to a few simple details. You want to be one of these pilots. You need to learn to make the trim adjustments that will make your plane perform well and easier to fly. So far we focused on building the plane right and setting up gear that matches the plane. We're now going to look at center of gravity, radial programming, reflex, prop direction, and trim adjustments. Online you can find 10 mistakes to avoid at our website at crashtesthobby.com. Let's start with the center of gravity. We're going to measure back to the center of gravity, which on this plane is 6.5 inches. We're going to place a thumbtack on both the right and the left. You need to know the recommended CG for your plane. Measure from the nose of the plane back, put the thumbtacks in, then balance your plane on those thumbtacks on your fingers. The thumbtacks give you a point of reference that you can find without having to look. I'm double checking just to make sure because this plane is coming out tail heavy. In this case, because it's tail heavy, I'm going to have to add some weight to the nose of the plane. And I need to do this because if the plane is tail heavy, it can tumble right out of the sky. I ended up adding 2 ounces of lead to the nose. Then I took the plane out flying and flew with the weight taped to the nose of the plane before I came back to install it permanently in the plane. Moved the Velcro strap, and using a soldering iron I melted out a hole for the weights ahead of the battery. You don't want this area to break or collapse in an accident, so in order to make the nose solid again, I put enough hot glue in there that it will squeeze up around the weights. And then gently pressing the weights in, the hot glue squeezes up around the weights and burned my fingers. You also want to make sure your battery is not going to be damaged by hitting the weights from the back, so I put a layer of hot glue on the back. It's a little bit spongy and it also is smooth to prevent the battery from being damaged. I'm now going to reinstall the Velcro strap and make sure that the weights didn't affect how the battery fits in the plane. It's okay to add weight to balance a plane. You have to remember that 3/4 of your plane is behind the center of gravity, so you have to build so you don't have to add too much nose weight in order to balance the plane. We're going to check Elavon movement and linkages. Mixing can be confusing on some radios. There are 8 different options that can happen with mixing. And in this particular case, I had to go through all 8 options before I got it right. You have to go to your reversing switches and reverse your elevator and reverse your aileron reversing switches to see if you can get the Elavons to move correctly. If they aren't moving correctly, you may have to switch the plugs on your receiver in order to get the right configuration. There are 4 different options with switches on and switches off that you may have to try to get it right. But you want it so when you pull back, both Elavons go up. When you push to the right Elavon goes up. When you push to the left Elavon goes up and the right goes down. When you push down, both go down. We use large Elavons to decrease drag. This is great, but if they move too much, your plane will be out of control. If you have too much movement, your plane will snap roll, and it makes it almost impossible to fly. You need to maximize your leverage. Notice how the push rod goes from the second hole out on the servo arm to the top hole on the Elavon horn. If you turn your movement down to 50% on the travel adjustment down your transmitter, you only have 50% of the servo movement and 50% of the torque from the servo, which may overload the servo. Flying wings have reflex, which just means that you have to trim both Elavons up a little bit in order for the plane to fly flat and level. If you don't have this on your plane will dive into the ground when you try to launch. The amount of reflex depends upon your airfoil and the weight of your plane. Most of the planes need about a 1/4 inch of up trim above the center line of the wing to fly flat and level. It's easier to have too much than too little on a launch because you have more time if the plane's climbing than diving. We want to make sure your linkages are tight. Notice that I'm moving an EPP Elavon from the tip of the Elavon, and it is turning the servo arm with the radio off, of course. Notice there's no flexing in the rods or in the hinge line and that the servo is doing well. Now if you look at this side is binding up. What I discovered was the screw in the servo arm wasn't tight and the push rod was binding with the servo arm. After a quick repair, I had it fixed and it's working right. I now do the same test, but checking to see what's going to happen with power to the servo and to the Elavons, making sure that the servo is communicating well with the Elavons. I've seen push rods bend as the Elavons come up as I'm doing it. This is why we use a wire guide. Wire guide makes the wire stay in a certain track. So we got the problems fixed, and you can see now that I'm able to turn that servo by moving the tip of the Elavon with the battery unplugged. Don't learn the hard way what happens when Elavons move too far. You'll be flying along and all at once the plane will do an erratic maneuver and go into the ground. This is especially bad on launch and landing. You can lose control in the air and not know why and think something is wrong with your plane. It all comes down to how much those Elavons are moving. Start with 3/8 inch up and 3/8 inch down on both aileron and elevator functions. Now let's double check that everything's moving the right direction. People often get this wrong. When you pull back, both go up. When you push forward, both go down. When you push to the right, right up, left down. To the left, left up, right down. Looks like things are great on this one. The number one way I have lost batteries over the years is by forgetting to unplug them. When you land, first thing you do is unplug the battery before you even pick up your plane. There is a front and back to the propeller. The front it faces forward, whether it's on the nose or on the tail of your airplane. If you get it on backwards, you'll lose 2/3 of your power. The front of the propeller should always point in the direction the plane is going. Thanks for watching. Go to our website at Crashtesthobby.com and RC information for more information. This is Lee with Crash Test Hobby.